Capitalism is a great system. It's not just the best system we have, it is fabulous. Because what is capitalism? Capitalism is freedom. Capitalism is leaving people free to live their lives as they see fit. It is a system that says that all the government does is protect your property rights and leave you alone to produce or not as you see fit. And by the way, if you want to be a socialist under capitalism, you can do it. You can get your friends together. You can go set up a commune somewhere, and to each according to his need, from each according to his ability, and live your pathetic, miserable lives in the commune. That's great. I mean, nobody's going to stop you. That's the beauty of capitalism. It's freedom, right? As long as you don't coerce anybody, you can go live your socialist life under capitalism.
We cannot separate capitalism from racism. They are married together. They are forms of control. They are forms of domination. They require submission and domination from some groups, and they require other groups to have a level of control that is not attainable by those others. The Black plight. We are so wrapped up right now in this capitalist system. It is mind-blowing. As long as we're getting money, we get so quiet about things. We just turn the other cheek, turn a blind eye. Where is the accountability for doing that?
Are y'all aware that they invented money, they created religion, bills, taxes, and then brainwashed us to believe it's the only way?
The idea that the American economy is the best in the world and therefore American capitalism is good has always felt short-sighted to me. Like, yes, America makes a lot of money, has a high GDP, all this stuff that people will look at as favorable or positive in terms of economics. And this is in large part due to the population and the taxes and the spending power and all those things that go into economics and all that stuff. But I think this take fails to account for how many people are negatively impacted by American capitalism. That there are millions of people, millions of people who live in poverty or at the poverty line, yet they also contribute to the economy. So they're being taken advantage of, they're being utilized to help bolster the economy, and yet they're being harmed by the system that is capitalism. There are so many people who can't afford housing, healthcare, who question where the next meal will come from. Yet the American economy is the best in the world and capitalism is just so good. When in reality it's only good for selected people who benefit off of the backs of others.
What's up, guys? I hope you're doing well from wherever you are. Welcome to my YouTube channel once again, Nimrod's Explainer. So today, guys, I want us to discuss about a topic that has been in the interest of the public for a very long time. Maybe today we can be able to exhaust the topic: communism or socialism versus capitalism. I'll begin by a very short story. 1974, in Africa, a country known as Kenya, a certain politician known as J.M. Kariuki issues a public address. What does J.M. Kariuki say? J.M. Kariuki says that we cannot have a country of 10 millionaires and 10 million beggars. After just saying these sentiments, this guy becomes a darling of the people. Many people love him across the country. People say that, some people even say that they want him to be the president of that country. It was just 11 years after that country gained independence. So some people across the country are not happy with these sentiments. Some people start wondering, who is this guy? Who does he think he is to echo such sentiments? He's inciting the people. He's inciting the majority. Guess what, guys? Just a few days after saying those sentiments, the guy's life is in danger. A few days, hunted down and assassinated. So I really wonder, guys. I don't know if this thing is disturbing you the way it is disturbing me. So what was his crime? To say that, what was his crime really? Why were some people not happy? These people that were not happy, I don't want to jump into conclusion, but were there some few capitalists who are not happy? Because those sentiments they are somehow in the support of communism or socialism. Uh, I did my research, came up with a number of videos which you are about to watch so that you can give your comments as well. Credit, uh, credit to these videos that we are about to watch goes to the original creators and editors of those videos. Let us watch, guys. Give your comments as you continue watching the comment section. I'll be back with more commentary.
Capitalism will never solve the problem of poverty because the problem of poverty has already been solved. And poverty existing in 2024 is completely and totally manufactured. Let me explain how. In 2024, mankind has the capability and the means and the technology to make sure that all people on planet Earth have their basic needs met at the bare minimum, like food, water, and housing. Yet we don't currently have those things, and people today will die from homelessness or starvation or lack of clean water. And why? Well, under a capitalist society, capitalists ultimately thrive on keeping working class people as poor as humanly possible. So you have to understand that the capitalist class does not build their wealth through their own personal labor. They build their wealth through exploiting the value of other people's labor, right? They don't make their billions through their own hard work. They make their billions of dollars through taking the value of hundreds, if not thousands, of other people's work. And as such, they have an incentive to drive down the cost of labor as much as humanly possible, right? Because if they have to offer a wage of $15 an hour versus a wage of $100 an hour, they're going to be able to pocket a lot more money if they can hire somebody at $15 per hour. So how do they drive down the cost of labor and make it so that working class people will accept basically poverty wages? They do this by making the floor level of poverty be as extreme as possible. Because when you can hold the threat of homelessness or starvation or lack of health care over a worker's head, they're going to be more willing to accept a poverty wage. Because when they have to choose between, or their choice is, take the job that's offering them poverty wages or risk going homeless or losing your health care or starving, they're going to be more willing to accept the poverty wage. However, if we lived in a world where all working class people had their basic needs met, like food, water, and housing, then the capitalist will lose leverage in the negotiation of the wage, because the working class person will be willing to walk because they don't have to worry about going homeless or starving. And as such, the capitalist will have to offer higher wages, which will ultimately mean that the wealth inequality, the wealth gap between the capitalist class and the working class will decrease, right? And that is exactly the opposite thing that capitalists want. They want to increase the wealth gap as much as humanly possible, because the higher that wealth gap is, the more power and money they obtain so that they can live like gods on the planet. So capitalists will use their billions, if not trillions of dollars of stolen wealth from the working class to make sure that the working class stays as poor as possible. And they will do this by, for example, they'll lobby the government or bribe and pay for politicians to write the laws for their own class to keep them as rich as possible, and make sure things that would ultimately help the working class don't ever pass, right? Like labor laws or labor protections or any socialized programs. And if a socialized program does actually happen to get passed through the government, they will use their money and power to sabotage those efforts by any means necessary, to then make it look like that socialization doesn't work. And then so they can point the fingers and be like, oh, look, see, the government doesn't work. And not only that, but they'll use their billions of dollars to buy out the media to control the narrative so that they can spit out their propaganda to tell and convince working class people that they don't deserve those things like food, water, and housing. And that if working class people had their basic needs met, they would all just become lazy and nobody will want to work anymore. When the reality is not that nobody would want to work anymore, it's that nobody would want to work anymore for some greedy capitalist to go buy a yacht and live like a god on the planet. So to sum up my point, capitalism will never eradicate poverty, because ultimately the capitalist class thrives on keeping the working class as poor as possible so they can exploit them for their labor as much as they can. And holding things like the threat of homelessness or starvation or health care or clean water over a working class person's head makes them a desperate worker, and desperate workers make cheap workers.
Ethical billionaires do not exist. It's not possible for them to exist. Let me tell you why. First, we must grasp just how much money 1 billion is, right? We're talking about 1,000 million, right? 1,000 million, right? Most of us are like, yeah, if we had $1 million, would be good. If we had $3 million, we'd retire. 1,000. These people made that and then got 999 more. And once you grasp that and you realize how many billionaires there are in the world and you start looking at the wealth distribution in America, it's absolutely sickening to look at how much money the billionaires have compared to how many people are impoverished. And all of this is because of our wonderful failed system of capitalism. And before you get on me about this, let me explain what I mean by that. When I say capitalism, I don't mean like buying and selling things is bad. Like we're always going to have to trade, whether it's money or barter or something. What capitalism does is it disconnects the value of a laborer's work with the value that they're bringing. So they're paid a very small percentage of the value that they're actually bringing, which allows all that extra value to go to these people that don't do anything, they have money, so they accumulate more money. It's literally a system set to make people richer and richer. So if you have a bunch of money, you have a couple $1 million, you can buy a business, and then all these people will work for you, and then all that money flows to the top. The biggest flaw of our whole country is the fact that billionaires exist. They put a bunch of money into super PACs so that they can funnel it into the government and buy government officials. And people know this, right? Why are we standing for this? Why is this allowed? It's absolutely ridiculous.
Communism was created by a loser who created an ideology for losers, an ideology that caused destruction, death, poverty, wherever it was applied. And you may be asking yourself, why do people still support it? Why is there still people saying that communism is a good idea? And I'll give you the answer right now. Because there's still a lot of losers out there. Losers who will blame everything for their lack of success but themselves. You can get better things for yourself. No. It's always going to blame somebody else for the problems that you have caused, for the problems that you have in your life. You're always going to be a victim. If you were born in a certain place, if you were born looking a certain way, you're always going to be a victim. There's no way to fix that. You need to be a victim. And that's why this system works in these people's minds, because they don't want to face the reality that they can actually change their lives, that the world is not this place where there's the oppressor and the oppressed, and that you are stuck in a place forever. But that's what they want to believe in, because again, they're losers. So they look for an ideology that's going to make them feel a little bit better about themselves. It's too easy to be a communist. If you fail, it's not because you didn't try hard enough. It's not because you failed. It's because it's someone else's fault. It's because of the color of your skin. You don't even have to try any harder because, again, you have someone else to put the blame on. So you can die as a loser and it's totally fine because it's not your fault. Sometimes I wonder what my life would be like if I had this kind of mentality and things don't go the way I want them to go in my life. I'm just going to say that it's because I'm a woman. Oh, they didn't give me that job. They didn't give me that promotion. Oh, it's because I'm an immigrant. They don't like immigrants here in the United States. Oh, it's because I'm a woman. Oh, that would make me feel so much better about myself, right? You're responsible for your own actions. We still live in a free world. And that's what scares me the most, right? Because this kind of mentality will lead us to living in a world where, yes, we will have no other choice but to be poor, but to share poverty, die as losers, because we will not have any power to do anything that we want. And that's why I'm here almost every day trying to alert you, trying to open your eyes, because there's still time to save our freedom of living in a place where we actually have the power to make changes in our lives.
I can't stand when y'all say the problem in our community is all these podcasts, all these men on podcasts and not going out here and getting real jobs and being plumbers. Y'all sound ridiculous when y'all say that. I'm just going to be straight up honest with you, because it's not that we have all these men on podcast mics. It's the fact that we're shining a light on the wrong microphones. Do y'all know that creativity and intellectualism go hand in hand? The problem isn't that we have men on podcasts. It's the fact that y'all keep on putting these men and saying stupid stuff out their mouth and shining a light on them in the black community. All right, think about it like this, right? We got AG, right? We got Justin Scott. We got Deontay Kyle, right? And all of these people speaking all of these real thoughts, right? And all of the intellectuals are listening and they're agreeing, and we're just creating this big, large echo chamber. And we all agreeing with each other that we need change in our community, right? But the people who actually need to hear it and hear that we need to make the change are not the ones that this reaching. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, we can go to any black community in America, go down to the hood, go around the way and talk to the little kids. Do you think that these little kids is listening to the Grits and Eggs podcast? Like, be for real. I'm just saying, and I'm not saying anything against Deontay Kyle, but we just have to breed more creativity and bring people together more, because y'all not really shining a light on these people the way that y'all say that you are. Because in any type of revolution, whether it's a black revolution or a world history revolution, creativity breeds intellectualism. Every single revolutionary. Do you ever think that back in the day, every time you had an engineer or a carpenter or a craftsman, they also was a philosopher. They also painted. They also was a sculptor. They also wrote plays. They also was writing literature. Like, all of these things go hand in hand. That's why when we were growing up as young black boys, my mom made me watch The Color Purple, and that didn't stick with me. You know what stick with me? They made us hate ourselves and love their wealth. Now shawty's hollering where the ball is at. And the white man get paid off for all of that. That's what stuck with me. Not what they was talking about in my history class. Not what my mom made me watch on The Color Purple. But when George Bush went up there and said, Kanye went up there and said, George Bush hates black people. That's what stuck with me. That's what made me start thinking. As a young black boy, that turned me into a little bit of a thinker. And all we doing, instead of saying, oh, we need more creatives, y'all are coming up on this app every single day and saying, oh, y'all need to stop being rappers. Y'all need to stop trying to make music. Y'all need to stop trying to make podcasts. Y'all need to stop talking about history. Y'all need to stop talking about politics. Y'all need to stop being artsy people. Like, the attack on just anime alone. It's a little black boy somewhere creating the next Boondocks, which will be informative to little black boys everywhere. But no, they're telling him, oh, stop that. You need to be a plumber, be a real black man. You need to work 12 to 16 hours a day to take care of your family and provide for your family, to be a real man. You need to go to war. Go build a house. Go build a house, little black boy. Stop all of that creativity. Shut it down. Can we name a time in history that being a handyman created a pioneer for the community? No. Can we name a family that just working 12 to 16 hours a day as a man and not catering to your woman and not being romantic to your woman and not actually catering to her needs and your family's needs and helping out around the house and helping your kids out with the homework and going to your kids' games and actually pushing your son or pushing your daughter to do something greater with themselves and being present in their lives? But working 12 to 16 hours a day would actually fix our community, because men need to go back to being men. And meanwhile, we got an administration in office that actually wants to do this. They want to kill intellectualism. They actually want to debunk all our history. They actually want to take all the dark parts of our history and erase it from our memories, right? They want to go into Harvard. They want to go into Ivy League schools. They want to go into public school systems and say, if you're promoting wokeism, which just means black history or Hispanic history or any type of history that's not that one group's history, then we're going to cut your federal funding. I wonder why they're doing. How many times in history did they try to change our languages so they're not able to communicate? We're not able to communicate with each other, right? Once we're not able to communicate, we don't know our history. We don't know our glory. We don't know our strengths. We don't know our power, right? We don't know that we used to be able to do these things through our community and working together, but we can't work together because we're not speaking the same language. And it's like the Tower of Babel is just a symbolism that's just repeating itself over and over and over and over. So yeah, erase their history. Make them think that they've never been anything and they would never be anything. Actually, make them think that the only thing that they can ever be is oppressed. Make them victimize each other. Make them actually trauma bond with each other. Yeah, make them think that they're depleted. Black fatigue them, right? And then go out here and say, oh, okay, since the Irish went through a little bit, then, oh, Irish people are black. That's interesting. Because I never heard a Jewish person tell a Japanese person, yeah, you're Jewish. Give them the Zeus Network. I've never heard a Jewish person say, oh, why do we need to know who Anne Frank is? We don't care about Anne Frank. But we got black women on this app talking about why do we care about Emmett Till? We don't need to know about Emmett Till. Meanwhile, all the billionaires are linking up with the intellectuals and they're creating like this technocrat system, like the same technocracy that happened in Canada after WW2 that was modeling after 1930s Germany, right? The fascism is just a replay of itself, but when we don't know our history, then we don't know what's coming to us, right? But if we try to look back in Canada when they had that technocrat society on an uprise, right? And it was Elon's grandfather, by the way. And Elon's grandfather moved to South Africa, and the South African refugees are coming here because they created apartheid South Africa. Now they feel like victims and they feel like they're refugees to America now. But anyway, if we look at history and we look at Canada at that time period, right? They were naming their kids weird stuff like A112, or they were changing their names to T3456, right? And if you look at Elon's kid name, it's kind of interesting. But back to the attack on creativity, because creativity, it breeds the deeper thought process. That's why they don't want us to express ourselves. That's why they don't want these certain communities to be expression. They want us to be expressionless. They want us to be gray. They want us to be soldiers of their greater agenda, right? Because God forbid we create something like X-Men, right? If we have to look at X-Men, one of them is Malcolm X and the other one is Martin Luther King. But we all turn into deeper thinkers every time we have different creators. Now, am I saying that we need to idolize these creators? No. If J. Cole came out as an abuser, I'm just going to say, yeah, he probably a weirdo. I hope it's not true. But I'm not going to sit up here and defend that man tooth and nail. This is crazy. Like, even though Kanye's a weirdo, he still helped me as being a deeper thinker as a young black boy. You can't never take that away from me. As a young black boy, I never thought about a lot of things until listening to Kanye West. And once I started listening to Kanye, my eyes opened. So for us to continue to tell little black boys that you need to be plumbers, you need to be handymen, you need to be craftsmen, you need to be carpenters, like, yeah, that's fine and dandy, but every single revolution had a carpenter that also was a philosopher, that also was a painter, that also was a sculptor, that also had some type of creative outlook, and they expressed their intellectualism through art. And the more and more that y'all suppress our creativity in these young black boys and girls, the more and more that y'all are fighting against our own people. I just don't understand why every time I date a woman, I have to ask them this one question, because they continue to say, if you don't have enough money to provide for a whole family, then work harder. A woman should not have to do anything in the household. And I asked them this question every single time. Would you rather an intellectual man with a PhD that decided to be a principal at a local school and make $90,000 a year so he can help his community, and he's going to be present in the house so he can have a healthy relationship with his wife and a healthy relationship with his children, help his children with their schoolwork, be there for them through their violin recitals, through their cheerleading competitions, for their football games, or whatever it may be, right? Or would you rather uneducated person who makes $300,000 to $400,000 or even $1 million a year off of unethical practices? Most likely it's off of unethical practices, because a lot of times to make a lot of money is not being intellectual, right? So would you rather that second person that's making $300,000, $400,000 or even $1 million a year and uneducated with unethical practices, that's most likely on work trips all the time and not present in the home, not there with you in the house, not romantic to you, and not there for your kids, not being a man in your children's life at all, so they're pretty much being raised by a single mom? Or would you rather that man who's an intellectual, who's a principal at the local high school, making a difference in the community, and he's vetting the people that your kids hang out with, he's actually present in the community, he's present with your children's lives, and he's present for you as a woman? Which one would you want? And they fight themselves to answer this question. They're like, well, what is the well? Well, what? Well, what? Says a lot. But it's always eat the rich, right? These billionaires are evil. Eat the rich. Capitalistic societies don't work. But then when you put the community, the socialism, the community, it takes a village, right? When you put the community right in front of their face and you give them a choice, what are they going to choose? It's eating us alive. We are begging you guys to open your eyes, and you just won't do it. They literally showed you last month that Birkin bag cost $12 to make, and you still on this app telling me it's an investment. You all are eating yourselves alive. You all are eating yourselves alive. You are so indoctrinated by this capitalistic society that you will choose to eat yourself alive rather than to have a community. This is a cult worse than MAGA.
Welcome back, guys. I believe that you enjoyed the videos. As I started this video, I was in the support of communism, and still after watching these videos, honestly speaking, nothing has changed. Uh, I've done my history, not only my history, but history has just proven that under capitalism, it's okay for children to sleep hungry. Like under capitalism, it's okay for the sick to die in hospitals due to lack of access to better healthcare. Under capitalism, it's okay for the banks to enforce people out of their homes. This capitalism, guys. Actually, some people argue that things like racism, politics, they're just a diversion. That the real issue, guys, is the unequal distribution of resources, which has brought this capitalism versus socialism. That is food for thought. Yeah, just think about that. And this is the end of our video today. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share. We'll meet in my next video, guys.